This is a movie review. It's the 2019 movie A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's directed by Marielle Heller, based on an article by Tom Junod, a journalist who was writing about one Fred Rogers. And the screenplay is written by Mika Fitzsimmons-Blue. And the cast, in the lead role is Tom Hanks, who plays Fred Rogers. Matthew Rhys plays Lloyd Vogel. Chris Cooper is Jerry Vogel, that's the father of Lloyd. Susan Kelechi-Watson plays Andrea Vogel, Lloyd's wife. And Joanne Rogers is played by Marianne Plunkett. And there are a few others. But that's basically the cast. So to the movie then. The movie basically focuses on the relationship between Fred Rogers, a TV personality, more about him in a minute, played by Hanks, and Lloyd Vogel, that's the character name in the movie, but based on a real event concerning the journalist Tom Junod. Vogel is the journalist here, played by Matthew Rhys. Now, the situation with regard to Fred Rogers, virtually unknown outside the United States, but Fred Rogers was, amongst other things, a TV personality, musician, puppeteer, and a minister of the cloth. And from 1968 to 2001, he was the presenter of a TV show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Now, prior to this, he had done a lot of work in collaboration with a child psychologist for 30 years and had become very involved in children's programming in the US, and his program focused very much on children, particularly very young children. We're talking about primary and kindergarten. And the show was very much tailored to young children, but its emphasis was on the children's emotional and physical health and the concerns that many have, and touched on adult topics, well, so-called adult topics, that were brought into the open by Rogers. He looked at death, divorce, school enrolments, and sibling rivalries. Now to this movie. Well, Lloyd Vogel worked for a magazine, and he was quite a troubled individual, and he came across Rogers when he was asked to write a piece for the magazine on Rogers, and he met him through that. At the beginning of the movie, we get a sense of Fred in his working clothes, so to speak, presenting his show, and initially it put me off watching the film because it brought out memories of my early childhood when I used to watch with Mother and Handy Pandy as a small preschool child. But his delivery was so gentle and caring, Rogers that is, that I then went back to it, and I have to say it had a profound effect on me, mainly because of the nature of the film. Describes how this man carried out his day-to-day job, but it wasn't so much him performing. He was actually just going about his business, and he was the same off the away from work, so to speak. So he basically played the reality in front of the camera, which caught many people by surprise, particularly Vogel, who for many Rogers' delivery was a thing to be used in comedy sketches because it was too good to be true. The movie then traces the meeting between the two and how the impact that Rogers had on Vogel. Vogel had a long-standing emotional problem with regard to his father. As a boy, his mother was dying and his father left the matrimonial home, and she died of cancer, and he had never forgiven his father for this, and this was poisoning his ability to carry out in life. He had become a father recently, but it was interfering with his ability really to be a caring parent and a caring husband. The intervention of Rogers, who, as I saw it, became his social worker, even though Rogers was being interviewed by Vogel for this magazine trip. And some of the dialogues was so powerful that it brought out many memories of me trying to do counselling of damaged, broken adults who couldn't move on because of problems associated with their childhood or their adolescence. So it really rang quite a number of bells in me. The performances of the four main actors in this I found extremely important and moving. Hanks is absolutely wonderful as this caring middle-aged man who carried these words to all these vulnerable children with such sensitivity, but with Lloyd does very much the same. He's constantly attentive to others' needs and wishes, almost too good to be true, totally unselfish. Lloyd, however, is very broken, and the film traces how his time with Rogers opens things up and how he is able to reconnect with his father towards his father's last days, having been diagnosed with a terminal illness. And we also witness how Lloyd's in relationship with his wife and his young infant takes a turn for the better, and it's all because of the intervention of Rogers. And so it left me with a very good feeling, this movie, as we went towards the conclusion. Rogers' performance by Hanks garnered a nomination for Best Actor. However, it could be argued that his performance was more that of a supporting actor here, but that's nitpicking. I was also very impressed with Chris Cooper as Lloyd's father, a broken man in his own right, who manages to repair his relationship with his son before he passes on. And the two women are also very strong in this movie. So that's my lot. I would thoroughly recommend this movie.